Okay, I'm gonna try to get through the final day Midwinters briefing. Finally, I'm late to this. Great day of sailing. Super interesting variables to go through and apply a lot of the content we've been talking about here. Have a good debrief from the day. Wind was northeasterly. So we're sailing in this northeasterly quadrant, kind of coming almost in line with this shoreline here, probably, if this was an arrow. And so all of these variables applied. The current was flooding to start, so going upwind, pretty much on your transom on starboard tack. Always have to, thinking from above, the angles always get twisted around. I have to double check starboard and port are the same. Yeah, so sailing upwind on this angle would have been starboard. This side is port. So sailing upwind on the starboard, the current's pushing you in the flood. And then the current transition and started ebbing towards the end of the day, which means upwind, the left side, you were fighting current. So going upwind, course left early in the day, beneficial current. Going upwind, course left late in the day, adverse current that's hurting you. But the current was more a factor on the downwind because the wind principles on the upwind overpowered it. In the first race, we had wind just kind of starting to fill. The pressure hadn't built up with such a strong convergence in the channel yet, and their right side wind was better. Great shifts coming over the mangroves with good puffs, good pressure. And most of the boats did better coming out of the course right on this first beat, even though the current was better course left. Yeah, it was just the standard wind coming over this peninsula here and good cat's paw puffs with shifts on the course right. We'll go into later, though, how I think it's still not as good on the shoreline in the northeasterly as it is in the southeasterly. But earlier in the day, before the pressure in the channel has built up, it seemed like a better option. So a lot of this is going through Walter, Brady, and Nikki's day. And let's just skip to the bottom gate. So we talked a lot about the current. Current's ripping up this channel here, this nice deep channel, also deeper current that's carving off here. The start line was around here, so if you started and held on starboard, you could get into good current. That was helping you, but again, on the first beat, the righty pressure was better. On the second beat, the gates were just upwind of this green marker here. So if you made the right turn and then headed to the course left, you'd sail directly into this channel. But there was a big shift on the reach leg and into the downwind. There was a big right shift, especially, well, this is a while ago now. I won't make stuff up. I know for sure that there was a strong right oscillation that overpowered the bottom half of this second outer loop beat. So even though there was beneficial current here on the course left, turning left into the righty and then tacking lifted on starboard was very, very strong. And then you would come across here, and this is what Brady got right. Walter went the wrong way, made a right turn, and just kind of played the oscillations wrong on this beat, whereas Brady made the left turn, which was great because there was a strong right shift to start that leg. And then he got on starboard, sailed that lifted tack across over until he said he started to actually see the crab pots along the edge of the channel here. Okay, so this is where Telmo is saying you can see all this activity on the on the map here, this is showing that there's just really a sharp transition here in water depth, and a steep bank, and the crab pots are all on the top of this bank, and that's how you know you're getting into that good current. So Brady hooked into that righty, sailed until he saw crab pots, and then short tacked a couple tacks, staying on the left side of the string of crab pots. That would have been somewhere out here, keeping himself in this. And then there was a left oscillation at the top of that beat. So all of these variables we're talking about, the wind coming over here, convergence funneling down the channel, current going up this way, and the most important one of all of them was just simply being in time with the oscillations. And in this weather pattern, you very, very much could literally time the oscillations, which we found out later in the day. So yeah, Brady hooked into the oscillations on this second beat, and a few other boats we watched in the fleet did as well and made massive gains. If your timing was bad in the oscillations, you were losing out big time. The other thing that we saw on these downwinds, jibe setting and heading out of the current, early in the day with the currents flooding, pushing upwind. Jibe setting heading out of the current was big. The people that straight set into more current actually were sailing in standing waves. So it probably felt good, like you're surfing in these giant big waves, but those waves are only big because the current is fighting them, kicking the waves up. So in these downwind, wind against tide conditions, you actually want to find the smooth water. That's where you have less current. But yeah, anywhere there's wind going against the tide, smooth water is less current, and big swell and kicked up waves is showing increased current going against the tide. So jibe setting was strong. I think the top mark was probably somewhere near the edge of this channel where you could, even though jibe downwind angles aren't that extreme, when you jibe set, you stayed out of it, and when you rounded that reach mark and sailed straight, you sailed like very much into this channel and the influence of this channel. It was the jibe mark, reach mark was probably somewhere around here. It was very, very apparent that you could get different current on the downwind. And then that changed throughout the day. Later in the day, you could straight set as the current transitioned into ebb, which was helping push you downwind. The second race was Walter had a really bad race, probably his worst race of the regatta, and he tried to play the course right. Okay. Extra note that I meant to put in here was that if you are trying to go up this course right and you're not winning, you'll see this note is on the whiteboard. Hard to chase. Okay, if you're not winning the race, and the same thing goes for the southeasterly. When you're trying to play the land on either shore, it's very, very hard to chase because all the good puffs, all the good shifts are taken by the people that are winning the race, and the only thing that's left to you is headers and light spots. So Walter didn't have a great start. I almost actually led to the edge as a first escape route, but tacked back into the traffic and then kind of came to the shore with a lot of traffic. And I do remember there were heavy light spots, and in the lulls he was lifted on port on the right side of the race course, which is like the worst of all worlds. And that's where I think in the southeasterly, I think this is probably something to do with the way surface friction bends the wind to the left. In the southeasterly, and the way gust and lulls work, right? Because that when the lull has more surface friction, it bends the wind left additionally. So on the southeasterly, you would head left towards the shore, and in the light spots, at least you were getting lefties. In the northeasterly, as you head towards the shore, and the right spot on the right side. Right now the course is land on the right side. You're heading to the right towards the shore, and you're getting lefties again, but now we're on the opposite side of the race course, so they're really, really painful. So the extra friction of the surface of the Earth over this peninsula is bending the wind to the left. When we have a light spot, it's even more so to the left, and that's where we're getting, lifted to leeward and in light spot on port on the right side of the race course, and that was very, very painful. Yeah, okay, so that's good there. Light air lefties, course right. So race 3, we started to see more convergence. Okay, so talking about surface friction again, here's the rough wind direction that we had on the water. But surface of the Earth, the friction of the surface of the Earth, especially where there's more friction over land, bends the wind to the left. Okay, so this is the wind that you see on the shoreline. All right, now when this wind over here that's more right meets this wind that's more left, the two breezes converge. Okay, you have a left shift and increased pressure on that side of the race course. Okay, so I can actually show you a better graphic of this. That's what I had this pulled up for. Oh, I tried to zoom in on it and just scrolled away from it. Okay, this is it here. All right, so this is northern hemisphere. When the land is on the left side of the race course, and the wind almost has to be perpendicular to the shore or like slide on shore, right? This graphic here shows the angles where you get convergence. If it's more onshore, you don't get the convergence so much. But if it's side onshore with the land to the left, that's where you do get convergence. Okay, so going back to our Jensen Beach race course, on the northeasterly, you got the breeze coming down this direction. The wind over shore is more to the left. Those two directions are coming towards each other, coming into each other, converging. And that combined with the channeling effect of the channel just meant really awesome, good pressure and shift on the left side of the course throughout the day, especially in the third and fourth races. And we also found that you could time the shifts, right? So by the third and fourth race, especially the fourth race, by the fourth race, Walter and Sophia had the oscillations on a clock, and they were actually tacking, or at least monitoring the shifts in line with those oscillations. And both upwind and downwind staying in phase with that pressure. Okay, now let me see if I can take these arrows away. Comparing to the southeasterly, right? If the wind is southeasterly blowing this way, okay, now in this case the wind is again more left on shore, but this is divergence now. Okay, we have the wind on water more right, the wind on shore more left. So it's not really taking anything away from the wind on the course, but it's not adding to it either. When we have the northeasterly, the convergence factor very, very, very significantly adds. When we have southeasterly, divergence doesn't do anything special. Okay, so this surface friction aspects of divergence, convergence, and the bending the wind as it flows over this peninsula, I think are some real key variables to understanding this race course. I can pull, if you guys just Google wind strategy PDF, you can find this. Here's convergence, here's divergence, right, on page 16. And then right above that, here's surface friction, bending wind to the left off the shore, right? And I think I talked about, we have to be real careful understanding this too. It's quite nuanced and dependent on the distance from the shoreline, right? And relative to the last shift. But overall, wind's going to curve off and veer towards the right as it gets farther away from the shore, meaning as you get closer and closer to the shore, there's a good chance of left shifts because of surface friction, right? Which that's great in the southeasterly. It doesn't really do as much to help sailing in towards the shore on the northeasterly. All right, I'm already at my time target for the video, so last thing we'll say is just Nikki went right in the fourth race. In the third race, Nikki went towards the left and was in a good spot, but then bailed out kind of early without getting that much of a shift. We talked a lot to him about, leaders are coming out of both sides regardless of all these variables, and if you just focus on winning your side, the worst we've ever seen the leader of a side get to the top mark in is like 10th place. Just focus on winning your side, and you'll probably be in a great spot on the right mark, at the top mark. So Nikki was 5th place to the final top mark by winning the top right. Okay, he'd done his pre-start research, was upwind of the line, timing the oscillations, ended up picking the right side. Was the wrong pick, but he won the right side for 5th, right? Walter kind of tiled in the oscillations with the convergence and sailed a pretty perfect last race. Okay, so we had both wind oscillating back and forth, but we also had this converging pressure here. Okay, so you head left into the converging pressure, time it into a left oscillation, find that left oscillation to tack across the fleet, and then you're in a good spot. By this point in the day, the race 4, the current was ebbing and going downwind with you. So it was better to do a regular set at that point in time. Yeah, I don't know how that one got so long. Okay, good enough.